Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 3rd of May to the 10th of May. I didn't think there were any videos this week that I watched that I considered not good, and that's okay. I don't like watching videos. I don't go out of my way to watch videos I don't like. I'm not putting that into my body. You know, you take what you get. I don't know. Food. Food analogy. We're going to talk about some decent videos this week. First is a pair of reviews that were sponsored by Viz Media. And the first one's from Gigguk. Talked about when you're glad everyone around you is dead. It's this zombie manga, Zombie 100, Zom 100. It's like a bucket list of the dead, and this kid's in a zombie apocalypse, and he's just trying to fulfill and live his life. It seems he's only covering 2 volumes of the story, so it doesn't feel very holistic. It does feel very summary heavy and like what it's about, and kind of giving the feelings and values that Gigguk's taking from reading these two. And I like how transparent he is on a couple fronts here, where for one he's like, yeah, this is a very much shorter video than I usually make, but I wanted to try making shorter stuff. And also very transparent of like, this is the first time I'm making such a dedicated sponsored video of like, they told me to, do this about this show, about individual title. Although I don't know how true that is, because I feel like he did that for Magus Bride. Well, maybe that was just with Bookwalker and they're kind of pushing him towards that title or something. But I think it was the first time where it's like, Viz is like, here, we have this title. We want you to promote it. You can check it out, and if you want to. And he explicitly was like, yeah, I'll do it because like it's a story I actually found attachment to and came to really like, because he found parallels with his own life of like not being satisfied with your job, and going out and doing the things you want to do with yourself. I think that's a great message. Very rudimentary manga video. It's not like doing anything super crazy with animation or anything like that, but like with animating the panels or anything like that. But I do like the feel. I liked how much more low stakes it was, and just felt like a small thing for him, and I like that. It's good to see him to go in those directions. Not too much else to say about it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah. And the other Viz sponsored endorsement type of video was from Chibi Reviews. Talked about Undead Unluck, and I just checked this video because it was like, it seemed something different from Chibi that wasn't like a chapter or episode review. And this talks about its underrated power system in Weekly Shonen Jump, and getting the titles in to try to maximize SE, and nice. But he does mostly focus on the power system and kind of what the cool things are about Undead Unluck. And I like that he is coming from this. I think they only want him to cover the first volume, but he ends up like talking more about the stuff later on. It's about 60 chapters in. I liked how holistic it was for that, because it's an ongoing story and stuff that he's talked about on his channel before. And yeah, I like the mix that he had, and I think I've mentioned in other videos, he has a good job mixing panels and showing manga with talking into the camera. I think there's a good balance there. I think it gets a little repetitive in places, and it just feels like spinning wheels a bit. I don't know if it warrants 12 minutes necessarily, but I like the focus specifically on the powers and explaining the different ways that they work and selling you on it. I really like these. Just like, imagine you got like a paper cut, and then like he's really kind of like coercing people instead of just like telling you what it is, which I liked. Yeah, that again, too much else to say beyond that. I do think it's, the power systems are cool, but it's not necessarily what I always come to with shonen, with battle shonen like this. I always want to know kind of what the dynamics, what the characters are, who are the characters you're following. I think the thing I would have been curious about when he says that one of the main characters here has this undead ability, and he just prevents him from dying. And so it makes me be like, okay, so then how does the series frame conflict? Like, what are the things he has to overcome if it's not his own mortal danger? You know what I mean? It's like, do they put the girl that he's like a sidekick with in danger? is it just trying to overcome a particular obstacle and get past a certain person? And it's interesting to see how I would have been interested to see how the battles play out in that way of what makes them compelling, and not simply like this guy can do the thing, can do this thing, you know what I mean? And yeah, but other than that, I think it was interesting and well paced, I guess. Still too kind of long for my taste, but I liked it. It was a good time. I checked out episode 3. I don't know. I didn't know Mr.FalconPunch was doing this, actually. I saw this video of him, Falcon and pals watching fighting foodons. I think it's just him and another guy. It might be 2 other guys, but I'm not totally sure. I didn't get a sense of how many people were talking in this particular reaction thing. But it reminded me a lot of Spilling the Milk, Jack and Core, with just reacting to the episodes that are happening. It doesn't have any. It has very rudimentary editing. I think it's just the it's just the footage that they're reacting to, and their commentary over it. And I like that they're not trying too hard. It's a lot of like, it feels like kind of just reacting to it rather than like trying to riff on it and making jokes and stuff like that. In some cases, I feel like that makes it for kind of a slow vid. It's more kind of something that like putting it on in the background and stuff like that, and it's just kind of a fun thing. I like that about it. Because a lot of not saying that Spilling the Milk does this or anything, but like I feel like other channels, I feel like they would go even further. It's like, oh, there has to be more to it. But like other, there's a whole market and not market, I guess. It's kind of cynical to say that, but like there's an audience for videos that aren't necessarily, you're not trying to make this big thing out of it. Some people are more ambitious than that. Like myself, like I feel like I don't know if I would go so far as to make something like this myself, but like I respect it. I do like it. It was also good to see this stuff from Fighting Foodons. Man, that release. So like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're watching. Like, it would be, from the Discotheque release because which is a long time ago, I imagine at this point. But like, man, I was just commenting on like the animation itself. Like, there's some of the line work is really like the quality, video quality is crazy, and I don't think that's on Mr.FalconPunch. I think that's purely on like what state that show is in. Unfortunately, doesn't seem to have gotten very good treatment. But oh well, what can you do? And yeah, I just liked. I think I liked their reactions and their interactions with each other. They weren't trying to go super hard or on anything. And yeah, it was a nice bit. I liked it. I enjoyed this video from Sloan the Female Otaku, a girl who hates mecha anime, watches Gundam, Gurren Lagann, and Bokurano. In particular, she watched the first episode of IBO, Iron-Blooded Orphans, and delightful surprise, she really liked all 3 of them. I liked that it seemed very genuine, and I like the way she talked at the beginning. It's just like contextualizing her hating mecha. It's just one of the genres she hasn't dabbled as much into. Similar with military anime is what she was calling it, and other things like that. So it was interesting is like see what her impressions and reactions would be and what she latches on to. I like that all 3 of them ended up being like, oh, those went by much faster than I expected. So which meant she was enjoying it. So, and she says that, so that's really cool. But also like her specifically it happened mostly with IBO, where all she could really focus on were like how hot the guys were, and like a lot of moment to moment type of things, how cool the princess is, and characters, right? And it kind of gets to the idea of like, yeah, that is the cool thing with mecha anime is it's really not as much about the robots as it is about the characters, and the story that's going on, and those interactions and stuff. And it's and I think she was implicitly getting that, and that sort of like reaction moment to moment, like oh, don't and I don't know, her reactions to her felt very wholesome and genuine, and felt very emblematic of the kind of things that a lot of us who are mecha fans are kind of like, the way we react to some of these episodes. Maybe not like so as explicit, I guess, but because if we're by ourselves in our room or whatever, we're like, Man, that was amazing. Holy shit. Just, I don't know how many people, but like, you know, it's like, I don't know. That's just me, maybe. But I look so bored watching anime, and I'm just like, man, that was an amazing episode. But yeah, and I really liked that. I was also surprised seeing Bokurano of all things. It didn't seem like it seemed like a kind of a left field pick, and I was interested to see what she thought of it. I hadn't seen Bokurano myself, so I was in a way sort of reacting with her in places, and it's just the highlights thing. But I think it was paced really well. Um, yeah, and I thought that went really well. I think she's good at reactions. I don't know how often she does reactions on her channel. Not too familiar, but I thought that went really well. And it's like if you do other mecha series or other other genres she doesn't like, I think it'd be interesting. I encourage it. It's pretty cool. Hey, Replay Value is back with a video on Megalobox 2. Nomad's first arc is impeccable, and it's a four episode stretch that feels very, very self-contained. I won't spoil specifically what it is if you haven't been watching Megalobox 2. I do recommend it. I'm very much enjoying it. I'm not as nerding out about it as I was with the first series, as a Joe fan. I think it's because I got all that out of my system with the first series, and then the second one I'm able to it feels a lot more original, I guess. Although still having plenty of Joe connections. But yeah, I like Replay Value's analysis of this arc, talking about the writing mostly, and not so much about like the presentation or anything like that. Really boiling down the themes of home and shit. Yeah, I think home's the biggest one for me that always sticks out, and maybe it's because of the hummingbird imagery. Um, Redemption, I guess, is another big one. Yeah, there's a number of things here, and to me, I'm just very. I have no idea where it's going. I have that's sort of like the thing with me. It's like, yeah, that standalone arc is cool, but I'm wondering what happens the rest of it, and I'm not. It's weird for me. But yeah, I liked his analysis here, and too much else to say about, to be honest with you. It kind of comes with a lot of replay stuff for some reason. I can't explain to you why. But I'm happy you're back. I also watched your the I'm back video of sorts of like the singing and stuff, and that was cool. And I like that you did manage to step away from, you made the decision to step away from YouTube because you want to try and enjoy other things, and felt like you were getting burnt out over it, and that's completely understandable. I feel it the same way. But yeah, happy you're back with that. That was a good video. I really liked it. Nice. I liked the Seaweed Ambassador video, and I like the thumbnail especially too. It feels like there's a very distinctive character to it. I think there's sort of a more energized vibe that your channel is going through with this particular video. How they ruined Ghost Girl in episode 1 of Bleach, first versus first, and the big thing that stuck out to me was towards the end. It felt you like Bleach so much in any form, if it's animated or manga form. So it never feels like it's a comparison video, but it doesn't feel like a one over the other. It always just giving you the raw differences and kind of letting you decide for yourself. And I think there's an appeal to that, but there's also just like a feeling of what conclusion is there? Okay, it felt like the video just kind of was like, and that's all I had for you. It just didn't have a as impactful of a whole point and a conclusion that I was expecting. Maybe an idea. I think you were getting closer with the Ghost Girl comparison, because I think that's the strongest difference between the two of them. And maybe if you kind of like found a way of microcosming, like, this is generally what the first episode of the anime is trying to go for in terms of its message versus what the first chapter of the manga. And I think there was something there with the Ghost Girl comparison, but I don't know if it quite stuck the landing at the end. And then the rest of it was like interesting, but like I think there was something about it where there wasn't so much clarity to, like, your point about the dad. I I wasn't sure. It's like, oh, so he doesn't appear at all in the episode, and but he does here in this. Like, it just felt like kind of jumped into it because that was like your first point, and I didn't know what like where we were coming from, kind of deal. And I feel like they needed to be a little more context, I guess. I don't know. And I had seen Bleach, and it had been a while ago, about a year ago at this point, I think. Now I'd seen that first episode, and I never read the manga, so the difference, hearing the difference was really interesting and great. And also the craft in general is awesome. I really like the balance with your live action footage. I also like the whole part where it's like, see, this happens later in the manga. Like the change in colors was really interesting. And I think they would be play something with that later with other videos. Like maybe if you do like kind of a part 1, part 2, part 3 situation, that each one can be kind of a different color, or something kind of establishing a different vibe. But I really like that with the room that you've set up with this, and the set looks fantastic at this point. And I really liked a lot of the manga animations you were doing here. I feel like a lot of them felt very rudimentary, but like effective. It's like, oh yeah, you're doing a thing. Yeah, cool. You don't have to wow anyone with this. It's simple stuff that gives you the vague impression, which I think is a good balance with this stuff, with manga stuff, because I feel like people either, like me, go way overboard and like way too over the top and fancy with it, and they kind of break their backs over it. I felt like I kind of broke my back over my Berserk video specifically, and then but then it's not, but it's more than just sliding the panels up, and doing something interesting with it. You're doing something interesting with it, which is great. I think that was a good balance. And I like the choice of BG. Like, it's so fun how many different people choose different things of how to have that manga background, right? Of some people it's just one solid PNG, and I liked yours with doing the multiple pages in the back. And then there was an occasion where it was pink, and I think the pink was actually much better. And if you keep with that, and it keeps with a specific style, or maybe it changes over the course of it, right? You each part goes with a different color or something, and it matches your room or something like that. I don't know. Things like that would be kind of cool. But I really like how you're growing your content even more here. I think your camera presence is good too. Yeah, I'm liking the stuff, man. Good job. Nice vid. Craftsdwarf had a kind of a rant of sorts. It felt not as focused, I guess, as some of his other videos I feel like have been. But that's cool. I like this this topic of shonen isn't for me, and he proposes like, I am 30. I'm an old man. Oh yeah. So yeah. And the kind of fighting this assertion of what is and isn't for kids and who cares. And calling like Chainsaw Man of a soft seinen, and Hunter x Hunter is something elevated to that, and it's like, can we not have these can we have something more substantive, additive? Come on, can we have something more like interesting to the conversation? I really taking it down, taking these arguments down. I like how many different series he's really working with here, but like not trying to go after anyone in particular or leaning too heavily on anything. The amount of the coverage here was really great, of like having a full understanding of like the publication of these shonen magazines, and not just Jump, but other shonen, shonen magazines over the decades, and how they've appealed to different demographics and things like that. And these distinctions and categories and things of shonen and calling things shonen and stuff isn't shonen and things like that. It's all just kind of pedantic and like, let's talk about something else, But it doesn't feel like he's completely dismissing the argument. He's more like dismantling it, of like, he's just kind of, I feel like this part of it feels like a flex of of like his other of like what he knows now and able to mature, I guess, and calling these other designations of, oh, this is just for kids, itself childish, which I really like that conclusion. Bringing in some analysis of Pat Ranger versus Lupin Ranger or Lupin versus Pat Ranger. That point was really interesting, and I liked that. Yeah, it didn't feel as holistic. Like, I don't know, not cohesive, I guess, but like I don't know, like laser focused. I don't know. It felt like a more general. Let's just say, like a spontaneous kind of video, I guess, a little more off the cuff, but still really sharp, pointed, and interesting and compelling the whole way through. Yeah, great video as always from Craftsdwarf. Really nice. I got recommended a couple times for this Corridor Crew video. And Corridor Crew, I'm familiar with their analysis of special effects, but they have basically like it says animators react, but it's kind of the one guy who's done animation for Raya and Frozen, and other Disney things, and he's a real legit CG animator. And the others, I think they've dabbled in animation before, so they don't like, they know what they're talking about, but they're not like as like hardcore as this other guy. And it feels like it's mostly with them depending on them on him for like his analysis and his take, which I think is cool. I think it worked out. And this is mostly just talking about a scene from My Hero Academia with Todoroki and everything, and being like, whoa, these little bits are cool and things like that, and what the Japanese do, as well as mainly Attack on Titan. I think the majority of the video was Attack on Titan, covering through stuff from season 3, season 1, season 4, all over the place, really. It didn't feel like anything was outright misinformation. It just felt like, them trying to spitball a lot of ideas, like it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And it did feel like they knew what they were talking about. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like out of a place of ignorance or being too used to, or othering it. It's like, oh, this is Japanese, and from a Western. It didn't feel as much like that, I guess, when it very well could have. I like a lot of the observations there, and especially the one point where he was talking about the application of the Titans in season 4, how the majority of them are in CG, and the choice of doing that, and whether that's a more or less effective choice. And I liked his answer where it's like, it's kind of 85% there. Like it's completely understandable why they chose that, and it was a smart economic choice. But I think he's like, I think they realized that they can do a lot more with CG, and they went a little overboard with it, and they took more than they can chew, so it ends up being a lot more noticeable and jarring. So it is almost, CG's come a long way, but it's not all the way there yet. It's still developing as a technology. So it was kind of a case of like, yeah, they mostly got it right, and the hate is very undeserved, pretty much completely undeserved. But there is some, he wasn't completely like, yeah, it's perfect, it's great. I like that he's like, it didn't work. It's not the most effective because they overreached themselves and other things, and made the observation. I think there was like Mappa. It's probably because they're working on these other productions and they don't have the resources, to specifically dedicate to Attack on Titan. So I think it was a pretty good on the spot, and I really liked the video. Yeah. I've liked their other videos about special effects too, and I remember going on kind of a binge in some of those videos because there's a number of those. I always like their insight, and it's always very in the mind. They're really considerate of the artist. Like, they're never punching down that much. They're just like, man, they're being very, not objective, I guess, but yeah, they're just being respectful of the craft, I think. And yeah, I think that's awesome. And yeah, very, very cool vid. I liked this KorewaEden video with Hartvigen co-starring the worst MILF manga hentai ever. And, I'm not too into like this subject as much. But it's been a while since I, had seen an Eden video and also had Hartvigen in it. So I was like, that's pretty cool. And, it's 19 minutes, but it really doesn't feel like it. It really flies by. This mostly reminded me of an internet historian video, like the type of video he makes on his second channel, like art and fashion, and they taste like a subject. And he's just like, they're just sticking around talking about it and like, shooting the shit, I guess, and kind of Google imaging certain things and riffing on them. it felt a lot like that like KorewaEden and Hartvigen's dynamic with each other, talking about these various crazy hentai and dojins in particular. Um, and they picked some pretty outlandish, crazy, and varied choices. Um, I liked that there was this one moment of like, there's a ton of stuff that's censored and you can't possibly show any of it. So that's tough in a video. It's like, what do you show there? And I noticed that Eden mostly relies on his profile pic image as well as Hartvigen's image, and then he gives like kind of a setting for both of those. And the majority, pretty much all of the video is subtitled, which is probably a fair deal of work by itself if you're doing it just in Premiere. I imagine if you did this in AG-Sub, like if you do the subtitles, especially because they're not like moving or anything like that. Like, yeah, they're occasionally like on the in a weird place, but it's not, that's still possible in AG-Sub. And then you like encode them together to get the subs into the video, like hard coded, and then you can upload that to YouTube. You can probably do that, and it would probably make it a lot faster than like what you might be doing. What I suspect is like typing each line out and like putting that into Premiere and stuff like that. And it might be a little easier, I don't know. Maybe you do it in a relatively quick way, but I can imagine that being kind of time consuming. But yeah, AG-Sub is a great program for subtitling, and it's literally used by professionals and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's a suggestion. But I like that the resorting to that imagery, especially with there's so much of these like censored stuff that it's not very engaging on a visual level if it's censored like this. But yeah, and the commentary is fun. It's kind of a banter and stuff, and I liked it. It's a good video. I enjoyed it, and again, it didn't feel like 20 minutes at all. It felt very went really really quick, and yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was nice. Well, yeah, sorry, it's gonna be another short one, I guess. I'm going to talk about the best videos of the week. The videos thought were really cool, and I'm very happy with. The first one is from Studio Tonton. I don't think I've talked about their channel before, but they are a animation studio, and mostly by fans. Yeah, this is the first video they've uploaded to YouTube. Good for them. And this is something they've worked on for about a year, and I've been aware of. But like before this animation even came out, after developing it for so long, several of their members, they had actually, I think this studio itself got credited on like an anime, like I think Wonder Egg Priority specifically. I might be wrong about that, but like some of these guys actually got professional work and got to work in the anime industry purely by their work on this OP, which is really really cool and exciting. So it's a Naruto fan made OP, and it takes place kind of in the part 1 of Naruto, but like it feels like kind of OP2-ish, I guess. But it has Jiraiya in it, so I'm trying to think of the range of which this comes in. But yeah, it's mostly focusing on the kind of the on Naruto's class, so the class 7, not class 7. I don't know, Naruto's class, and they're very giving each of them kind of a cool little spotlight and things. And it does feel like really professional at points. It does feel like legitimate anime. Even though other parts it's just like, yeah, you can tell this is a person's first time animating stuff, but it's still impressive. It's still like really kind of fun and neat. It doesn't feel rudimentary that much. It just feels really passionate and interesting and fun. And yeah, it's but like the cool thing about it is just that it really got some of these animators on the map, and they're able to work in the anime industry. Hopefully that doesn't lead to them burning out very quickly as they came in. That would suck. That would really suck. I hope that doesn't happen to them. But congratulations on getting this project out, and it's really cool and exciting, and I'm happy for you. Very cool. HazelNeverTalks had a really crazy cool video, Unforgivable Girl, and this is I guess it's part of Zarigoto. I have no familiarity with this particular set, but I know it's like her profile picture, I think, the character Mikoko. And it's a novel right now. It hasn't been adapted into an anime. And so she, in the description, I really like that she's began to really explain and talk about the process of making this, and I find those to be just as interesting as the AMV itself, because I feel like the AMV in isolation would be like, oh, that's cool, but I don't have any understanding of what's going on or what this is. Some people might not have context, and you don't want to just give that context in the AMV itself, because then it kind of, disrupts it, and it's not, it's like explaining a joke, kind of deal. So I really like that how verbose and detailed she's in the description, and she apologizes for that, but please don't apologize. I really like those, actually, personally. But since there wasn't an anime for this, she just kind of like animated something herself. What? like she's drawn before, and she's drawn like custom thumbnails and things and had other art pieces that I've seen, but this was the first time that they were incorporated into the video, but also were like slightly moving a bit. So there was an animation, it was animated. So that's really freaking great. That's a huge step forward for her. I'm really looking forward to what happens next with it. I like that, she was very, Tyler's like, the beginning is kind of weird. And I think there is something to be said about it with the text. Like, it's interesting, but it goes by too quick. But I get like the pacing and the I totally get that. And it's like it's sort of the, there was a really great quote from Peter Chung's article on Space Cobra that I have on Twitter and has been shared around a bit. But like, he talked about how Western animators are afraid of anything seeming ambiguous or not explained to the audience fully. And so like it kind of speaks to these creative choices that are flawed in some way. In this case, it's like, I can't read all of them that fast without pausing, and I don't want to pause in an AMV, you know what I mean? When you disrupt the flow. But at the same time, there's an artistic choice of placing them that way and incorporating those passages into the piece. So I think that, I think it's like, that's kind of the best you can do. I don't know how else you could do that. I think there is some artistry and strategy involved in breaking it down in such a way that it's like, okay, you could probably read it this fast, or at least get a sense of what it's like. But I like the art on the side that is sort of like going on through the whole thing in that section. But then the rest of it is just so gorgeous, and there's also a bit of reusing assets and putting them in different colors. But like, that's always they're very evocative images anyway, so it's cool if you reuse them. And like, I'm very allergic to reusing things in my videos. Like, I cannot stand it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but like, I always respect people that do it, because if it has a very artistic, it doesn't feel repetitive. It feels more, but also just, this in itself is transformative. Like, you're not showing the same image like twice, like repetitively. You're showing it in different colors and in different contexts and things. So there's interesting things to that. Yeah, it's the same song as the last one, but I don't really care. I actually completely forgot until you wrote it in the description. And I was like, oh yes, I guess it is the one from last time. Oh, it's still good. It's still a great song. Man. Yeah, this is really exciting. This is a huge step forward for her, and I love that she's still finding ways to evolve and grow herself and grow her content. Grow herself. The fuck? I'm sorry. But yeah, like, this is so sick. This is really great to see, and I'm looking forward to what you have next. Whatever that may be, yeah, it's awesome. Really kick ass. This is some good shit. Awesome MercuryFalcon video on the birth of Macros, and doesn't really talk about Robotech pretty much at all. That's great. That's totally fine by me. Talked mainly about the history of Shoji Kawamori, actually, and like how he grew up, and talking his influence on Lupin and stuff was really interesting. And then the development of Macros and how it changed its title and where the title Macros came from, which was interesting. And it had a lot of good humor to it too. I really liked the use of the monorail clip from The Simpsons. From that, mono is one, and rail is rail. With Macros is like Maz macro, and then across is across. Yeah, but it had a lot of great information, a lot of stuff I had never heard of. I didn't look too far and look too much into this particular subject. But this is a really definitive, awesome video on Macro specifically. Also goes into Orgus a little bit. Doesn't cover the whole franchise, but that's totally fine. Also goes into in the making of it up to Do You Remember Love and their context and the reasons behind making it. Instead of the recap footage, making an all new animation, things like that. Really great holistic take on, not even a take, it's a historical video. Really informative, interesting, engaging, funny, very good. It's hard to say much else about it, to be honest. I think MercuryFalcon's making very rock solid, really interesting retro style content, the stuff that I would want to see for sure. Congratulations to BennettTheSage on 250 episodes of Anime Abandon, and he decided to celebrate with Serial Experiments Lane Retro Postmodernism. And the take is really cool with, talking about it, and you can tell this is one of those, one of the few installments in this series of his that's been going on for 10 years now, where it's more of, it seems he's more mature, and he's talking about very specific concepts, and it just seems all very wise, and he kind of gets it, even going so far as to really talk about certain aspects that and bring up certain elements of Lane that I can see in those contexts that, if you take it in isolation, that would be kind of like a negative to the series, and I was worried about it being like a not so, kind of complainy kind of video. Like, a lot of people don't like Lane, and so if he wasn't going to like it, I was going to try to be open-minded, but it's hard for me to do that as a Lane fan. But he takes a much more mature, wise approach to this. I really liked his talk about the growth of the exponential growth of the internet. He talks about a lot of different subjects here, and none of it feels like surface level or like didn't take long enough on that sort of thing. There's a whole air of maturity to this the entire time that I really respected. The best part of the video for me didn't even have to do with his analysis of Lane, but his discussion of the intro of him talking about Anime Abandon, and reflecting on the first episode and things like that, as well as the end, specifically the end, where he talked about Philosophy Tube's video, the April Fool's video on anime. And on one hand, he says, oh, I really liked that video because it was funny and lampoons this thing that I know of and whatever. But he was like, it kind of bothered me in places where it's very derisive. Yeah, derivatives. Yeah, derisive of anime as an entire medium. And there's this sort of it tapped into the self-deprecating attitude that fans have of calling it trash. And he's like, I don't think we should do it. I don't think we should call it that. Each one should have its own, should be given the respect that it deserves. And it felt like an epiphany of sorts, and everyone sort of, every anime should be met at the place where it's trying to reach. And and he says at the first episode of Anime Abandon, I called anime a genre, and he said I couldn't be more wrong about that, because it's way more than that. It's able to do all sorts of things, and there's no one. I like what he said, that there's no one anime that defines anime. It's true. It's completely true. I think if people just think it's Dragon Ball Z, or if it's Astro Boy, or if it's some of these, or it's Ghibli or whatever, none of them. There's not a single one, because there's always something else on the opposite spectrum that is just as much anime as the other one, and so on and so forth. Every color is a color. There's no one color that defines color, right? It's the same. I think it's the same thing. So I really liked that particular bit at the end, and that self-reflection. It really felt like you really felt a growth and maturity from Bennett in this video, and it was reflected in the actual analysis of Lane and him talking about it, and it was followable. I really liked that it didn't really a lot of these kind of videos with postmodernism and describing these things and getting kind of conceptual, I'm kind of dumb. I'm kind of stupid. A lot of it goes in one ear out the other for me. But this one I was able to pay attention pretty consistently with, and he did a great job with this. It's the stuff where it's like, I know he can do really good stuff. It's so weird with Bennett. It's always either really great, best of the week sort of stuff, or not good, or just like, man, it was a swing and a miss kind of thing for a lot of his other content for me. Yeah, but like this was great, and I really like this video a great deal. Yeah, it's awesome. It wasn't the best though. you know who did the best one is Beyond Ghibli puts out one of his best videos on his channel. We Are Mother, the Nintendo series that belongs to us, and I don't know if it's the first. It's technically not the first time he's talked about video games, because he mentioned the Berserk video game at least in his Berserk video. But I think this is one of the first that he's dedicating specifically to a video game. And I really like that it didn't feel like a video game video. It didn't feel like any other Earthbound. Like I'm not like a mother connoisseur or like, of these kinds of videos or something. But there was a vibe specifically with the first chunk, like the intro, with the original animations, with the live action footage of all of the merchandise and stuff that he got from somebody else. He commissioned that. And that collaborative feeling that this video has, it's the future, my guy. It's the future of like, not just like, Beyond Ghibli's content, but like, I would hope that YouTube in general goes to, because like, yeah, YouTube broadcast yourself. There is sort of an allure, and sort of an expectation almost of videos being made by the one individual. It's all because of me or something. But like, collabs are sick. Like having other people help you with certain aspects, just elevates the video that much more. And, just better content means better content for everybody. And so this felt like, had interviews with various creators, had a lot of assets and credits and tributes to various things. But again, the fact that it didn't feel like a video game video, part of that had to do with him describing the games. Like when he went through Mother and then Mother 2 and then Mother 3, he doesn't talk about the mechanics at all. He doesn't talk about like, yeah, he says it's a JRPG or whatever, but like never talks about the battle system, never talks about how, it's mostly about the story and the writing. That is the key thing that he takes, and the aesthetics and the tone, the experience of playing these games rather than the nuts and bolts. You get the inventory, and like there's nothing like that in this video, which I feel is very, very refreshing. And yeah, again, the visuals being used here, like he's using the video game footage, but he's framing it in this gorgeous. Each one has its own gorgeous background. Mother 1, Mother 2, Mother 3. And it's constantly cycling, and there's little surprises and interesting things for your eye to drift towards to really keep you engaged with the whole video. And even better, there's stuff that's happening in the front of it, so there's a dimensionality to it. It's gorgeous. It's like one of the best backgrounds of a 4:3 footage type of thing I've ever seen. And I've experimented with that over the course of my videos, and having each one being kind of different and stuff, but nothing's ever that cool. Like nothing ever had that much effort put into it, originality, and just general effectiveness. Like it's so good looking. Amazing. And yeah, like just all of the resources he's pulling from this, and the focus on the fans. Like half the video is about the games, but the other half is really about the reception and the fans, and the fact that Mother 3 never can never be localized. And I was mentioning this to him when he sent this to me early. Thank you very much. When I first saw this, the big thing that sticks out to my mind is that like, yeah, it's no wonder it's never going to get localized, because the fans have already done it. And there's no way Nintendo is going to take the unofficial fan localization and use that. They would have to make it themselves. And so you're going to have two different localizations. The fan one that literally all of the fans, like at this point, everyone who wanted to play Mother 3 has played Mother 3. Like, there's really no reason to localize it besides getting it to a broader audience and getting more people who haven't played it to play it. So this is really untapped market here, but the fans, all the fans are used to this localization, the fan one. So they put out this other official one, and now there's going to be contention. Like, that is inevitable. Like, maybe they're fun. Like, maybe the mother fandom is wholesome and there's no fighting whatsoever. Maybe, but maybe they'll accept it and they'll just be overcome with happiness that it's licensed at all, that it got localization at all. But there's going to be problems. I am almost positive of comparing the localization. It's like, because I definitely guarantee that the fan one did more work than the official one, and there's going to be this dichotomy, and it's like there's going to be a struggle. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing for that. I'm not like a part of the fandom, but I can imagine that being a source of conflict and not something a good idea. And yeah, again, there's no way that Nintendo would just take it theirs wholesale. It's going to open up a really bad precedent of just like, oh, we can just do that for every other game. But they're a business. They have to really like consider, and I don't know, it would develop more fan entitlement. This is just a theory on mine. I imagine it creates a sense of entitlement from the fans. Like, oh, we can do that. We can just do whatever we want with other people's property, IP, whatever. But like, to me, I would just be hoping that Itoi, the guy behind Earthbound and Mother, like the mother guy, is okay with it and that he's getting properly compensated. That would be my hope, because that's his baby, and I would hate that it's doing that. There's this indifference and this separation of sorts. I don't know. And there's so much material, and there's so many games that are being made now, like, and Beyond Ghibli goes through a lot of them. It really sells me on the idea that we are Mother, and it belongs to the fans now, entirely. And yeah, I can completely understand why Nintendo doesn't want to touch that, because it's nothing but trouble. It would be nothing but trouble to touch something like this that is so beloved to fans, to mess that up, give them any cease and desists, or if they're not going to do it, right? Yeah, completely makes sense. I think it's less like, I don't know, they shouldn't be villainized or seen as indifferent. I would say it's more like, well, that's the situation we're in. They made a business decision at the time, similar with Earthbound, to not give it a UK release, to not give Mother 3 any localization release, because it takes a lot of resources for something that probably wouldn't have gotten them a whole lot. And, they can't do it now with, like, the Game Boy Advance. Like, there's not many Game Boy Advance games that get, like, re-releases on any other system. So it just doesn't it makes sense that, like, the Game Boy Advance game, Mother 3, doesn't get anything like that. Maybe a remake. The remake, if they ever remake Mother 3, but why would they? You know what I mean? That would be, I feel like that those sorts of things would probably also kind of create more of a rift. To me, it's like the only solution is if Itoi makes another Mother game, but that's never going to happen. If he says it's the last game, he's not doing it again, I can completely understand. And yeah, I don't know. That's a really tough situation. It's interesting. It's very fascinating, and I really like that Beyond Ghibli really talks about it, but more positive. It's really an earnest, positive, uplifting kind of video, and doesn't really dwell too much on the stuff that I'm talking more pessimistically about the situation personally. I still find it interesting. I'm not going to say it's a negative wholly, but it's certainly more scrutinized and theory crafting of kind of why that doesn't happen. I don't know. I'm just wired that way personally. But it's thought-provoking. It's beautifully crafted. I told him as well, but I'll say it here, that it is emblematic of the passion that fans have given Mother as a franchise in what he's talking about, in these fan games and animations and these localizations and everything that the fans have done. He's contributed to that sufficiently, very, very sufficiently in this video. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's great. I do think it's one of his best videos, and yeah, also one of the best videos of the year, even though it's not anime related. So I'm not totally sure if it's going to be like in the best of 2020 or 2021 type of top 5 sort of thing. Maybe it would, but no, I really like this video a lot. This is fantastic. Great fucking job. And that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Austin, Boo, Kuiper, MyAnimePod, Najbeb, Nicholas, Saxon, Unique Namesaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.